Stars are in light, the weeper, we would know. I've been told that the fire's old, and when stars are in light, the weeper, we would know. As a sliver of your mind, as a
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Improving Sales Performance Livecast. I am so excited to be here, and I'm thankful to have such an amazing guest as Mike Searson, who I'll introduce in just a minute. If you are watching on either LinkedIn or on YouTube, and you want to leave a comment or ask a question, feel free to do so. I think today we're about on a 20-second delay. So if you post something and we don't respond to it right away or we don't see it, just because we do have that delay. Here's a topic that we were talking about. Maybe someone wants to join in. Our producer Shay and Mike and I, prior to going live, were talking about Peloton and Peloton instructors. So if you happen to ride a Peloton or use a Peloton, if you want to give a comment or a shout out to your favorite instructor, that would be good for us to know. That'd be useful information for Mike and for Shay and for I to have that. I already told, full disclosure, I like Robin and I like Kendall, and big fans of both of those instructors. So again, that won't help you improve sales performance, but it might help you with your mindset, and mindset is certainly a big part of improving sales performance. Let me jump in with the introductions. Today, again, like I said, I'm very fortunate to have Mike as our guest. I've known Mike for 16, 17 years. Consider him to be a colleague and a friend, and he's going to bring a lot of value to this. Let me read his bio because it's very impressive. Mike is the VP Local Sales for Corus Entertainment. Innovation and growth are hallmarks of Mike's 20 plus years at Corus Entertainment. It's Canada's largest pure play media company. Mike steers 23 sales teams in offices across the country and champions a leading edge go-to-market strategy centered on a customer-centric, multi-platform approach. A key account focus, new business development are important pillars of success. And these concepts, along with his deep understanding of the needs of both his external clients and his internal sales staff, have driven exceptional growth over the years. Mike knows that successful leadership depends on transparency, inclusion, and celebrating people doing the right things. All of these points and more make Mike one of Canada's premier media executives in the industry today. And like I said, I'm just thrilled that Mike was able to find time to be our guest and talk about some of the things that we talk about on this live cast about improving sales performance. All right, Mike, hi.
Hi, thanks for having me, Matt.
Nice to see you.
We clearly also have a good writing team because I wouldn't have written that.
I read it and I was like, Mike's upped his game. I mean, this is legit. This is very good. So hats off to your writing team. But
Thanks.
you are all of those things. They just said it so nicely, but you are all of those things. All right, so let's jump right in. From your point of view, from the seat that you sit in today, overlooking all of the markets, radio and TV, from your point of view, what are the things that you look at in a sales department that let you know that it's on track? In other words, you could spend your time looking at absolutely everything, but there are probably 3 to 5 things that you always look at. What are those KPIs? What are those things you always look at?
Yeah, Matt, there's probably 3 to 5 typical things that we look at. And then certainly I think there's been some nuances during the COVID era, if you will. So obviously the typical in sales, TRAM and TSS. So TRAM is sort of our view of how the total radio ecosystem is working and our share within it. And TSS is the same for television. So obviously those are important. And then SMI is, I know in the US as well, Standard Media Index, we have a peek at that, and pipeline. But where we're starting to spend a little bit more time is looking at revenue versus category assumptions. And that's particularly of interest, obviously with supply chain. So we made some pretty significant educated guesses in terms of how certain categories would perform through the year. So that's certainly something that we're keeping an eye on by office. Net Promoter Scores is something new we've introduced in the last year. So that's really taking a temperature check of how your customers are feeling about you and your performance, which is obviously critically important. We also spend a fair bit of time with surveying our own staff. So we just wrapped up a survey that we do quarterly on clear direction. So does everyone on our team understand the strategy and the path by which we're going to execute that strategy? And then, something that I took certainly from the time you and I spent together, Matt, for years is obviously on key account growth. But then also we've just recently come back to looking at the number of active accounts and benchmarking, those businesses that maybe walked away from us over the last year and a half during COVID, and how quickly are we able to recalibrate them and get them back on air.
Yeah. So a couple of follow-ups to that. In the TRAM and TSS, thanks for the explanation. In the US, that would be the Miller Kaplan, would right. be the equivalent. Same, nearly the exact same product. I love the idea of revenue versus category. I think that's really, really smart, indexing yourself to how are you penetrating per category. Tell me, how are you doing the Net Promoter Score? Is that after every new order that comes in? It's automated? Is it once a quarter? What are you doing with that?
We're doing it twice annually. And to be frank, we're just trying to sort out what the right cadence is. But we did it twice last year and had great feedback both times. So we're actually just going back into market just to get a sense from the hundreds of partners that participated to try to get a sense of how often we should be doing it. Yeah. Again, I think it goes squarely back to clearly understanding the needs of your customers and not oversubscribing or undersubscribing. So we're trying to figure out with them what the right cadence is.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's something that I'd like to follow up with you later on and see how that works. We have some clients outside the media industry that do a good job of using NPS. Inside the media industry, it's people are experimenting with the best ways to do it. I also love the idea, and I just want to kind of put an emphasis on this, of going back and looking at those clients that went away. They were good clients pre-COVID, and they've been away for a year. and going back to them with almost a "we want you back" or a "let us help you," type of thing. I think that's really, really smart. So good for you. I'll be curious to see the results of that effort 6 months from now.
Cool. Yeah, and something we're not doing, Matt, that I'd like to try to think about a way in which we could do it. And you and I have talked about this before, but is trying to get a better sense of what the right volume of weekly appointments is, and trying to put some discipline around that.
So, as you know, we just concluded our media sales report survey that we pushed out to get surveys, and we got a really good response. In fact, this morning, prior to this, we were Shay, who you met, Shay and I, and someone else from our team. We were going over the results. One of the questions that we did ask is, how many appointments per week are your salespeople going on, and how many appointments per week do you think they should be going on? Trying to get a gauge on this. So I'll share that with you after we kind of look through it and make sure that we're looking at the numbers the right way. But you're right. That's a big one that that's one of the numbers that a sales leader ought to be paying attention to right now. Is if you have 10 salespeople and you expect them all to be going on 8 appointments per week, whether they're in person or virtually, then you expect your sales team to be going on 80 appointments per week. Well, then how many are you really going on? If capacity is 80, what are you really going on? And being able to index that, I think we'll all be looking at that.
Well, and I think there are some silver linings with COVID, and one of which is, I think, the access to getting appointments, and or the lack of time required to get from appointment to appointment. I know, certainly in Canada, which leans more conservatively, generally speaking, we're certainly not back to sort of full capacity in our buildings, nor sort of getting into client locations either. So the notion of actually executing and doing more appointments is a reality.
Yeah, I mean, there's no travel time. I mean, you can probably be more efficient. They don't need to take an hour and a half. They could take 30 to 40 minutes, and you could be very effective.
Indeed.
All right, what should sales managers be focused on? As you know, sales managers have a very big job. There's a lot of things, but what are the big rocks that they need to stay focused on right now?
I'm not sure how popular of an answer this will be, but I still believe the fundamentals still apply. Obviously, the tools are more complex that we all have in our toolbox, and our clients have as well. But I think we need to focus on supporting our salespeople. We need to minimize the internal roadblocks that they have. I can't speak for any other company than ours, but there's lots of forms to fill out. There's a form for everything. And how do we minimize that process so that they can be spending more time with their customers, or with your internal brainstorm teams, what have you. And then I think the other thing I spend a lot of time talking to our leadership group on is ensuring any time that you ask them to be away from their clients, that there's a value prop. So we put some pressure on how effective are your sales meetings, and then how do you know? I think we have some people on our team that actually do a survey after every sales meeting, just in the chat, ranking the meeting out of a scale of 1 to 10 on how valuable people thought it was. And I think that instant feedback is critically important, because an hour out of everyone's day has a significant cost to it.
Yeah.
So then the other thing, and I'll probably weave this through our narrative today, Matt, but as you know, I'm a big believer in the 3-box strategy.
Yep.
And it's quite frankly been part of the fundamental of how we've developed our go-to-market strategy. But you need to stop doing things in order to start doing other things. So the question we always ask ourselves is, what can we stop doing? And we ask that throughout the whole organization.
Yeah, it's really important to do that. And because what I think you've seen over the years, and you've expressed this with me, is a lot of times we do things just because we've always done things.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And if you really question it and say, why do we do that? Be like, I don't know. That's just because that's the way it's always been done around here. And there's something good about saying, okay, what can we stop doing? What are we doing that serves no value? And there's a lot of those things in older companies that have been around. Some of the benefits of being around a long time is you have tradition, and you have culture, and you have systems and process and all sorts of things that can help you to be more efficient and fluid. But you also are sometimes tied with some legacy anchors tied around your ankles that you need to free yourself of.
And even companies that have been through mergers, you're amalgamating different processes, really disciplining yourself to picking a lane, if you will. But that frees up valuable resources to be able to reinvest them more in terms of, again, focusing on what your salespeople and your clients really need.
We were having a pretty good conversation the other day in talent focus management. And one of the questions, or one of the topics, was about, removing roadblocks, right? I mean, that really is one of the biggest jobs a sales manager has, is hire really talented people, give them a good system and a good process to follow, and then get all the other stuff out of the way that keeps them from selling. We had one of our clients shared with us that they had done a survey of their salespeople, a calendar audit, essentially, of where salespeople spend their time. And only about 30% of their time was doing things like discovery meetings and presenting proposals and closing deals and overcoming objections. They were spending 65, 70% of their time in meetings and doing paperwork and turning in reports. And
not effective. I know in my calendar, I actually have a block once a week. I call it Ron time. I was privileged years ago to work with an executive coach. His name is Ron Bremner. And he instilled with me the notion of catching people doing the right things. So I have a 30-minute block in my calendar once a week where I acknowledge people for things that I hear about, and either I call them or send them a handwritten note. But you can use your calendar effectively to ensure that you're following through on the strategies that you think are really important.
You put the most important things in your calendar. So if it's not there, it's obviously not that important. All right. So how has a sales manager job changed over the years? Compare what it's like to be a sales manager today to maybe what it was like 5 years ago.
Well, I get the first thing that comes to mind is being a sales manager 5 years ago wasn't easy either.
It was never easy. That's right.
And I don't know that it's easy now. Matt, I guess there'd be maybe three things that I would think about would be nuances to 5 years ago, and probably at the top of the list is being a leader in diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think that's a responsibility we all have at every level of the organization. But certainly, I think as a sales manager, as the captain of the sales team, I think that's first and foremost, an area that we all need to continue to educate ourselves on and walk the walk. So that'd be number one, I think. Number two, our clients' needs are increasingly more complex. And, obviously the migration to digital and social and e-commerce is more prevalent for clients of all shapes and sizes. So I think, probably 5 years ago, a sales manager could have escaped not fully understanding the role that digital and social played in our clients' growth narrative, but now that's impossible.
Yeah, I think that's right, and that's been a reoccurring topic on this live cast. Is that 5 years ago we had sales managers that didn't necessarily didn't feel comfortable being the digital sales manager, so we hired digital sales managers. And what I've heard again and again from different leaders on the live cast is that job really has come together. There's still an important part that someone focused on digital plays, but the expectation is that every sales manager would know about getting results for their clients and using all of the capabilities that we have, not just the ones that we've had for 30 years or longer. So I think that's a good point.
I think the last one, Matt, I just say is, navigating and leveraging all of the tools in our toolboxes. I can only, again, speak for Corus. We've got a plethora of solutions for solutions for clients, and I think understanding where to go for what is more complex for a sales manager today than it ever has been.
Yeah, one client that we work with did something I thought was pretty good. They built out kind of recipes, right? Proven solutions, and they said, okay, if you hear this sort of a challenge, a business challenge, a desired business result from a client, if you hear this, here's 2 or 3 proven solutions that tend to work. Almost in the same way that when a doctor hears of, says, oh, you have strep throat, here is what you should take to fix strep throat. It's not to suggest that everything is automatic, because there are some customization, there are some other small details, but as a starting point to help speed. And the other real reason to do this is because they wanted to make sure that they were getting results for their clients. And I thought that was a good way of doing it.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I suspect a lot of folks on the line here today would, support or multiple markets across the country. And I know one of our Achilles heels, we're doing a bunch of great work in one part of the country. And how do we make sure that all parts of the country can tap into, whether that's a research piece or what have you. And so it's something we're trying to figure out too, because we've created I think, as you know, Matt, a client insights group that is just purely focused on developing insights about our clients, and it's a plug-in system. But I would suspect an insight for a Kia dealership in Western Canada will be close to applicable for a Kia dealership in the eastern part of Canada. So creating a repository whereby folks can access some of those great research pieces, and it is something we're certainly focusing on.
Yeah, that's an important piece. Okay, let's say you were speaking to a group of seasoned sales managers, and you were asked to give them some advice on what they should be doing or leaning into right now that would prepare them for success. What are those things that a sales manager ought to be, if they're not already versed in, they ought to be getting very versed in them?
Well, you can go a lot of different directions here, but I come back to needs. Like, you got to be able to clearly understand the problems or the challenges that your team and clients are facing. Because if you don't know what the challenge is, how are you going to begin to effectively support? So that'd be the first place I'd start. And then the next place is evaluating your team. I'm not sure if there's any salespeople from Corus on the line or salespeople from across the country. I don't view this as a bad thing. It's what are the skill sets and the strengths of our teams, and where do we need to invest from a support perspective to help our AEs increase their skill sets in the areas maybe by which they're deficient, and or as lead gen becomes a more important part of all of our business, ensuring that we're just assigning talent to task. So those would be the 2 sort of things I would probably really focus on. And then, sort of going back to the 3-box strategy, Matt, I'd be identifying sort of redundancies or things you can stop doing and making sure that you have a plan to reinvest that time into areas that will add strategic value.
I have found over the years that I agree with you. I think sales leaders should constantly be evaluating the team that they have, because there's no room to have not talented people on your team, right? You have to be thinking about the best ways to grow and develop people. What I have found over the years is that talented and successful salespeople love to be constantly evaluated. They love it because they don't look at it as a negative. They look at it as ways that you're going to look for new systems and processes to help me grow and develop and generate more revenue and make more money.
And they also love to be surrounded by successful salespeople.
So I'm gonna get it wrong, but I believe and I know if someone's on and they can correct me, please correct me. But it was Chick-fil-A, the CEO of Chick-fil-A, that said, I believe, people that are a 10 like to be surrounded by other people that are a 10. People that are a 5 like to be surrounded by people that are, 4s and 5s, right? Talent loves talent.
Yeah.
And the not top performers like to be surrounded by people that are not as good as them because it makes them look better. And I know someone will find that statistic and post it later, but it was a great quote, and it's worth looking into.
Well, I'm just excited that Chick-fil-A, I hear, is coming to Canada. So that's a 10 in my book.
I know. I hope as soon as it gets there, rush out, get there first. I think if you get there first in line, you get a golden ticket, you get free chicken for
Sign me up.
All right, last question for you, Mike. Final thought: looking 3 to 5 years into the future, tell us what you think some of the changes that we'll see in our sales departments. I know that we have our industry, the media industry, has started to adopt a CRM. You guys use one, and others are starting to. But what other changes do you see coming? What are we going to see in the future?
Great question. Actually, I was reading an article this morning on the 10 trends. I'll put it in the chat later, but I think, like most of us, we probably wouldn't mind seeing 6 months out. And I know from a forecasting perspective, even seeing a month or two out is a bit of a challenge. But, outside of that, I'd say there's no doubt, Matt, CRM systems and ways in which you can link your sales force across the country are going to be, that wasn't a plug, by the way, but, linking your teams across the country and extracting data, but then also adding a value prop back to the sellers is going to be really important. I'm sure, there's hundreds of sales or thousands of salespeople out there that have started at a new company and, the good old file was empty. So not having any data or insights or research on your clients is just unacceptable. I think inbound marketing strategies will continue to become more prevalent. Again, I think it's all about working smarter. Work from home, I think, is going to be, from a culture perspective, we were talking before the session, Matt, I think organizations around the world are struggling with all of that. It's exciting and a great opportunity for us to allow folks some more freedoms in terms of where they work, but how you bridge that culture gap and ensuring, especially in broadcast, that those connections to the on-air staff or to people that win prizes and coming in and really getting a sense for the flavor of your audience, I think is something we're going to have to sort out. And I think, I talk to clients all the time, virtual meetings are here to stay. And you mentioned that, Matt, I think in April of 2020, that it was something that you thought was going to be a trend, that, the virtual meeting would be a critical part of the CNA process going forward. So I think those are all things that I can see. And then specifically for my group, I know, our strategy is pretty sound. We're going to continue to invest in sales support and our strategic selling team, which we call Tempo. I think it was you, I'm going to say, a wise man once told me that clients cancel schedules, they don't cancel solutions. And I think you said that to me in 2009 or 2008, 2009, when the world had some disruption back then. But, for us, we're really blessed to have a robust asset base that supports our clients and agencies through all levels of the purchase funnel. And our Tempo team is really the access point for our integrated account managers to plug into. So Tempo is like an agency for our reps, and they support with strategy, ideation, project management. So we know that's going to be a bigger requirement going forward. So we're trying to focus on our box 2 activity to see how we can reinvest back into our Tempo team.
Yeah, I've thought for a while that what you guys are doing with Tempo is really, really smart, and I think that's something that people will model over time. You did bring up CRM, and I want to say this because I want to kind of piggyback on what you were saying about what I see as some of the things that looking out ahead. Our survey that we just got back, looking at the data this morning, did show that 92% of the people that were surveyed said that their company uses a CRM. 92%. That's really large. I mean, I bet if we were to go back 5 years ago and say how many of our clients, or even this was open to our non-clients too, how many people in broadcast were using a CRM, I bet it wasn't 10%. So yeah, that's certainly a significant movement. We asked the question of what do you use it for? And what people are using it for, according to our data right now, is to track interactions with their clients or their prospects, and to hold people accountable. Those are the two things that both salespeople and sales managers said. The CRM is used to keep track of my interactions with clients and prospects, and to hold me more accountable. What it's not being used for, and what I see it being used for in the future, is to speed up the sales process, to automate basic routines, to help people sell smarter and sell faster, to take people from first meeting to close in 60 days versus 6 months. And I think that'll be the next same CRM, no new technology needed. It's all right there, whether you're using Salesforce or HubSpot or Dynamics or Zoho, whatever you're using, they all have the same capabilities. It's there. We're just not there yet. And I think we will be. And I think you guys will be in the forefront of doing that.
Well, I hope so. I mean, it's part art, part science, and we're on the Salesforce path, and the integration into your booking systems is easier said than done, and so you need a strong technology team.
Way easier said than done. We've had conversations about that. Way easier said than done. All right, Mike, thank you very much. You've shared a lot with us. I'm certain that people will want to connect with you and find out more information. We'll go ahead and put your LinkedIn information up there. So if you want to connect with Mike, that's his LinkedIn profile, Mike Searson, with a whole bunch of numbers after that, because unlike the last name Sunshine, where there's only one of me, I'm sure there are multiple Mike Searson. So find the right Mike Searson and connect with him. And then if you like shows like this, if you like this live cast and you're watching on YouTube, if you could like, subscribe, and share, we would really appreciate it. The YouTube channel is gaining popularity. I think we're up to 300 subscribers now. We have a goal of eventually getting up to 500. We will get there. So if you could help out and share it, that'd be awesome. And then next week, we have another great guest you're absolutely going to love, and I look forward to seeing you guys. Mike, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Matt, and thanks to everyone for tuning in.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
I've been told that the fire's old, and when stars are in light, the weeds